Okay, so this is part 2 of my week 4 discussion post. I had to think a little bit more about that third question of, based on my experience, give an example of this circular pattern of family communication, and then how you see yourself applying this theory in schools. So I think the biggest kind of example I can see or I can remember is this past year I had a student who um, mom had died the year before. I don't remember if she died from COVID or if she'd just been had cancer or something. But anyways, she passed away in 5th grade when he was in 5th grade. um, he was or is living with grandparents, but I think they had already been living with grandparents prior to the mother's death because like her and the his dad were separated or divorced. And so it's still he's still living with grandparents, and dad is not living in the same home but in the picture. And this student, we had a lot of difficulty with this student, very unmotivated, lots of potential, but just years of the impact of their family system on his education was becoming more apparent. Because we could push him all day long at school, he would, unless he made the decision to really get involved, he wouldn't do anything. And they didn't have a terrible home life or anything. It was just grandmother let him do whatever he wanted. There were really no boundaries set with him. He kind of did whatever he did. Homework, never any homework at home. No push from them or anything. There was no counseling involved, with, about his mother's death. And so just, there's a whole lot of dynamic there of just like no motivation. I think very similar to the teenager in the video where just the parents do everything for at home. But outside of school, outside of the home, where he'd be unmotivated, he still felt like he was able to had the same boundaries at school. And so when we would place more structured boundaries on him at school, no different than any other kid though, he would resist. And so it wasn't anything horrible. It just kind of increased what a lot of his teachers called as just being lazy. And I think a lot of it has to do with the family systems that he grew up in. So, but, and then I think, so outside of home, I think he would want more responsibility at school and felt like he should have more responsibility or be able to do more than he could, as a result of just that family dynamic. And let's see, how can you see yourself applying this theory in schools? So, not necessarily doing the same family therapy that we saw in the video, because from what I've read outside of the textbook, you don't necessarily have to have other family members present. There's some activities that you can do to help get an idea of the family system that the kid is growing up in. And so there's different ways that you can assess that. What would your mother advise you to do? What would your, dad say to you in this situation or anything like that? You can do different, I'm looking at my notes. You can do different activities like, excuse me, I did not mean to do that. You can do like a family autobiography where they write about the people that live in their home or who are close to them. Their jobs, their personalities, just having them describe their family. Um, you could do a family collage, anything like that. Let me move my camera over a little bit. And there's also like, I can't see that word. I think it's like family genogram or something, where you use toys to show relationships among members of the family to kind of get an idea of what that family is like. And so I think that's how I would kind of use this, and mostly probably just more through questioning, you know, gaining the kids' perspective on their parents' response to certain things or whatever the topic of conversation is. So I think this would be at first I was like, how am I going to use this in the school setting? Because I'm not a therapist. This would be if they're, I would kind of refer this kind of out to an actual therapist who could help family systems. But it's more about this, knowing this system is more about being able to gauge that family system, because we know that the parents in the family are one of the main stakeholders in this kid's or the academic achievements, and so or academic career, I guess. So I think more understanding this theory, what it's really getting into, and understanding that the circular patterns, and we can't always just try to figure out what's the initial cause to this problem, but more just what is this whole system that's affecting this kid, and how can I use that to, impact some change, some positive change in their behavior. So that is the end of my video. Got one more to do, and then we're almost done. Bye.